Evening and good afternoon. I am Eric.P.Beyeler with DuPont Image Solutions. I'm a global marketing manager for inkjet ink business, and I am delighted today to spend some time with you to talk about textile printing and specifically talk about how do we make textile printing more sustainable through the use of inkjet inks. As you know, the DuPont company has been in the world of inkjet inks now for more than 30 years. And as you can see, we are celebrating those 30 years together today. And so thank you again for joining. And I look forward to the next 45 minutes to an hour that we'll spend together, and hope that we will bring some information that will be of good value to you. Okay. So, going to the next slide, we are, as DuPont, one of the things that has always focused us is technology, science, and breaking boundaries from a creativity and innovation standpoint. And that's been true in textile. I think all of you are familiar that DuPont created nylon and revolutionized the world of textile at the time, right? And so for a long time, DuPont was also in the textile business. In a modern way today, the way we are involved in textile is through inkjet inks. We are part of a business that is all about printing, all about images. And we have another business next to us, if you wish, which is a flexographic printing business, Sarel Flexoplates, that is used for packaging, to print on packaging. So we have a big input in the world of images, in the world of printing. And today I will be focusing more, of course, on the textile printing side. So what's the challenge about printing? There's many of them, but I'm going to start with the challenge of the substrate. So when you look at the substrate, we have on the paper side what we call plain uncoated papers. You all read newspapers, books, magazines, etc. But not all these substrates are created equal, right? So a plain paper substrate from an ink standpoint is a friendly substrate. Why? Because it can absorb some of the water that's contained in the ink. A little bit less friendly is a coated paper substrate, because now the resistance to absorbing the water from a coated paper is different, and therefore your drying has to be much more significant, okay? So if you think about all this, the technology that one is going to employ between plain paper and coated paper is different. You can see below here, then you can, I would say, continue to increase the level of difficulty if you go all the way to films, which are really not connected, if you wish, to, I would say, receptive to absorbing any of the water when you print with an inkjet ink. But today, the focus is not going to be on corrugated and films, which, by the way, I will have some also webinars in the future that will be addressing those. But today we're going to be addressing textiles. And textile, by the nature of it, you can see some of the graphics there, it changes. We all know that printing on one type of fabric versus printing on another type of fabric is not the same. And I'm not just talking, changing from a polyester to a cotton, but even the weave. Several of you, I'm sure, have struggled trying to understand what the sizing was on a specific fiber, because when you put your pretreatment on it, depending on the sizing, the effect is going to be different. So the point of this chart is to say, when you talk about inkjet ink and you talk about putting inkjet ink on a substrate, you really, really need to understand that substrate, and you really need to design a solution that will be matched to that substrate. That is the big challenge, one of the big challenges in inkjet ink. And having been in the world now of inkjet ink for more than 10 years, I think I have learn to respect that challenge. But I can assure you that when I started working in this business in DuPont, I did not understand the complexity and the challenge of the substrate. So, but the good news is, we know how to deal with these challenges. So what do we do next? So we're in textiles. What do you want as a participant in the textile printing industry? What you want is faster cycle times. What you want is faster printing speeds, and you want great quality. And you want it, some of you might be more on the roll-to-roll side, and some of you are on the direct-to-garment side. And I would refer you back to my previous slide to say, remember the challenge of the media we're printing on, right? What the substrate is. A t-shirt and a roll is not the same. The process is different, but also the fabric is different. The pre-treatments are going to be different, a lot of challenges. But yet, again, we want it faster, we want it brighter, and we want it comfortable. We can't forget that a lot of these applications have to do with comfort, be it a garment that you're going to be wearing, or is it the cover of a sofa that you're going to be sitting on? All these things have to have an agreeable, a good feel for you. Or, I would say even a napkin. If you have a fancy one, nicely decorated, could be textile printed, it's got to feel right, okay? And of course, t-shirts that are close to us, and we wear, and we like to wear it in a relaxed mode, we want that to feel good. So all these challenges are well understood, and we need to work on those together. So why pigment inks? So the challenge that I started with is to say, how are we going to do textile printing in general, digital printing in particular, and how are we going to do it in a more sustainable way? And so what I want to open with, and what I'm going to focus on today, is the case for pigment inkjet inks. And what I hope I'll be able to do with you today is show you in both the economic on the application and the social impact that there is a great and strong case for pigment inkjet inks. So on the economic side, what is it? On the economic side, there is no seaming and washing process cost and no capital investment related to those, right? So that's, a clear advantage from an investment standpoint. As you know, when you work with reactive, you have some color toning that needs to happen during steaming. This does not need to happen on the pigment side. So you're eliminating any kind of defect, if you want, or reject prints and inks that would be used if you had that type of defect. And between the time you get a job and you're able to execute it, because of all these different aspects, you'll be able to respond quicker with a pigment inkjet ink offer. So on an application, we understand that pigment inkjet inks are, of course, great with cotton, but they're also great with blends and some acetate fabrics. So there is a broader substrate group that pigments can use. You'll have to use different pretreatment. You'll have to modify your process slightly, but pigment inkjet inks can be applicable to a lot more substrates than the other ink sets in the textile world. It has better UV fastness than dye-based ink. That is the advantage of pigment, right? So it's inherently better from a light fastness. By the way, some people use it to non-textile. I opened up with paper. Pigment inks can be printed on a wide variety of substrates, not necessarily at the same speeds, with variations of process. But wallpaper, the whole decor applications, that's also done with pigment ink. So pigment inks have really a very broad application. And again, a kind of a, if you think about it, it's a low barrier to entry for investment economics. You know, you don't need, as we talked in the previous point, the steaming and washing entries. You need your printer. You need a calendar or other means of doing the heat treatment, and you are good to go. So what does it mean from a social impact is there's no wastewater discharge. I mean, that's a big one, right? Not only is there no water to be used and consumed, there's no water to have any chemicals in from a waste stream standpoint. So not only do you not use water, but you don't have to treat water, okay? And on a power basis, also it is a lot less power consumption. So that's also an impact on the footprint. So overall, great advantages for pigment inkjet inks. Let's dive, excuse me, a little bit more into the detail and trying to give you a pictorial of what that comparison of the processes are. So what you're seeing here is dye printing, which is reactive acid and disperse, and below dye sublimation, and further below pigment, right? And I want to introduce, dye sublimation, which as pigment has a very low environmental footprint, because just as pigment, when you print with dye sublimation, you do not need the washing and fixing the steaming part of the fixing that you would need for reactive acid or disperse, okay? So I'm sure quite a few of you are already in the dye sublimation business. And so your investment level, with pigment is very similar. Your footprint is going to be very similar. There is one difference though, is you will need to use paper, right? So if you think about, again, environmental footprint basis, now you have to think that compared to all the other textile processes, you have to add the environmental footprint of the paper manufacturing and of discarding the paper that is being used. So that is one of the other differences. I've already in the previous slide kind of focused on the fixing, steaming, and washing side of dye printing to show the difference, okay? So in here, you get just a easy pictorial of what are the different steps and how to get there. So again, if you're printing with pigment, you're going to have a fabric that will need to be pre-treated. Now, some get pre-treated. You buy the fabric already pre-treated. Some of you do the pre-treatment in-house. Most of the pre-treatment today is done through padding, but I think if you read the industry news, you'll see that there was a launch recently of a jettable, basically, a sprayable or jettable pre-treatment, right? So people are always looking at these as possibilities. Could you do the pre-treatment in a different way than the padding? And so I think the technology in that area is going to continue to evolve, and I think will be very interesting to watch. Then you digital print on fabric. As you know, there are many equipment that you have access to that can enable you to do that. And we'll talk a little bit about roll-to-roll versus direct-to-garment. And then the fixing, which is the time that it takes, of course, to heat set the ink in place on the fabric, and whatever finishing process that you need at the tail end. So that's how the process goes. So, economic picture. So what does that really mean? And I tried to put some numbers here so that we can have a little bit of a discussion. But what I think I want you to really pay attention to is the fact that to the question of when is the break even between switching from an analog system to a digital system, I would say the question is going to be very specific to the type of application you're on, the type of business you're on, the size of the orders you get from your customers. But the input, if you wish, the different components that gonna decide what is the level of profitability. At what point do you make your cost, per square yard or per square meter, the cost that you have targeted to make your business profitable? There's a lot of components that you can use to understand how to get there. The first component is what type of equipment, right? So if you're using, rotary screen, a silk screen, if you're using a roll-to-roll inkjet or a DTG inkjet, there's big differences in the amount of investment. And by the way, I chose on the roll-to-roll inkjet, I did not include, some of the single pass, printers, which would be much higher investment. So I am fully aware that these cost a lot more than $350,000. They're in the multi-million-dollar investment. These are kind of unique, printers, and again, to address a unique level of demand, where you do achieve a great, cost per square yard through extremely high volume. But for that, you need to have extremely high volume of demand on your end, and that's not the case for many of you. So the majority will be using what I would call standard roll-to-roll inkjet machines, which are in the 200 to maybe up for $500,000 range. If you look about the facilities that you need around it, if you are in rotary screen, you still have to have extremely high investment around facilities, right? Again, in the analog world, there is also a lot more of water usage, water treatment, and so forth. On the roll-to-roll, I put medium, but there is a range, right? If you go with pigment, it'll be on the lower side of that medium. If you are in reactive or acid, then you'll be on the higher side. And then when you take all this, you look at what, depending on my run length, what is my cost? Well, on the analog basis, where you have an investment in the physical device that has created your image, you have made an investment up front. So this physical device, be it on a roll or on a screen, will have to be amortized by the amount of printing that you do. And so you see in that red curve that in the beginning, of course, in the short runs, if you're using analog, your cost is very high. As your run goes longer and longer and longer, the cost per yard, the square yard decreases because this upfront investment gets amortized on a larger basis. The key question, and one that you need to do for your applications, to say, where is the break-even? Where is the break-even? And clearly, if you are in a business where there are shorter runs, the runs change, the image change, the types of image required keep on changing, digital is perfect for you because you can change that image at no additional cost, but the cost that you already have, which is the people employed in your business, right? And so your cost per square yard there does not change if you print 5 or if you print 10,000. That's the great advantage on the digital side. So again, understand your application, understand your order patterns, and you'll be able to figure out, where is your break even based on the economic parameters of your specific application, industry, and customers. So that's the economic side. The challenge on the technical side, I try to represent in this slide. So inkjet technology, again, to many of us, and I know because I started in, I was again new on the inkjet side. I said, what is so complicated in putting color into water, right? It sounds pretty straightforward. It should all be one thing. Once you start understanding the complexity of inkjet printing, then you have a little bit more of a respect to say, we are trying to put solids on the pigment side. We're put solids in a suspension mode, have them go through a microscopic hole, if you want, opening, and jet it at incredibly high frequency on a fabric or on a piece of paper. And out of that, a beautiful picture is supposed to come out. So, you know, one of the first things that is important is to say, you know, I talked to you about a suspension, a dispersion, right? And, you know, one of the key things that's important in a dispersion in an inkjet ink is that the different, you want your color to be the same in any, in a bottle, anytime during your printing, right? So if you have a 20-liter bottle, you don't want part of that bottle to have a more intense color than the other part. Because if it does, you know, what it translates to when you print it is your color is going to vary at your printing stage. So you want to have your color dispersed uniformly in the ink, and of course, at the end on your fabric. And to do that, you need this dispersion science, and you need dispersants. And by the way, dispersants are polymers. And as I think you also know, DuPont's been in polymers for a long time. And so we used our knowledge of polymer chemistry to choose the right type of dispersants so that the color from the color pigments are uniformly distributed in our dispersions. And then the next thing that you got, that many of you said, yeah, but I want a lot of color too, right? But before we get that, what I want to show you is, if you look at the chart on the bottom left, is the ratio of the pigment and the dispersant is important, because you know, as you have the pigment over dispersant ratio increase, the jetability gets better, the stability gets better, and the OD increases. But then there's a moment where the jetability literally crashes and the stability crashes. So the science is to find, you see that shaded area, where you are getting at the maximum and best jetability. All of you who do printing know you're going to live and die by how well your ink is going to jet, right? Because if your ink is not going to jet right, the picture is not going to be right, you're going to have maintenance. If your ink is not stable, you're going to pick up a bottle and say, why am I using this ink? It doesn't look good at all. So all these things, right, are important. So we need to do the right type of combination of these factors and get you the right ink. If you look on the top right, another important thing is, after you've printed on a piece of fabric and you say, great, I love the picture, you put it through the wash and it comes back and it doesn't look the same. And you're going to be disappointed. And your customers are going to call you back and say, this is not working. So there's an aspect of durability that is really important. Well, we put another type of polymer in an ink formulation called a binder. And that, the more binder you put, as you see in the blue line with durability, the greater the fastness is going to be. And you say, well, that's simple, then, you know, not a problem. Well, see, the other thing is, the more binder you put, you see that red curve of viscosity, it goes up. As the viscosity goes up, the reliability on your printing, right? If you have too much polymer in the ink, now think about it, it's also a solid, just like the pigment. You could have some jetting issues and the reliability of your printing is going to decrease. So again, you need to have the right balance to achieve the result that's needed. You want great durability, but you don't want to compromise your reliability in printing, okay? And then everybody wants OD, right? So everybody wants great color. And the more color you put, the greatest. Well, there's other issues that are, you know, it's called decap, you know, which is a potential, to summarize it, to say, if you think about the mess that ends up on your nozzle plate and some of the clogging that occur, you can put a lot more color, but then your decap starts decreasing. So again, there's also, by the way, on a chromaticity standpoint, a moment where the return on investment on adding color is not there. So again, a great balance about how much colorant do I put in the ink without damaging, right, the ability to print on a regular basis. And if I put, we do these tests all the time, we keep on putting pigment, and then we look on the picture, does the picture end up being brighter? And this is part of this chromaticity basis, not necessarily, right? So the color might not be better, even if you've added a colorant in your ink. So a lot of challenges, and all the technology is managing all these challenges to a solution that will be great for you and your customers, right? So you use polymer chemistry, you use dispersion science, you use color technology, you use ink formulation science. And in the end, by the way, let's not forget, you're buying this ink, right? And so, if I go back one slide, you have an investment to protect and you have a profitability to deliver on. So we need to deliver something not only that works on the science, but also works for you as far as the value proposition that you are offering to your customers. So as I said, the challenge is an interesting one. So how are we meeting this challenge? So one of the great news today that I want to share with you is we are launching, again, our next generation pigment ink called P2700. It's a mid-viscosity ink targeted for Kyocera printheads, but will be compatible for other mid-viscosity inks. It has not only KCMY, if you look on a color basis, but we're going to have blue, green, orange, red, violet. We also have the light colors, cyan, magenta, and black. So what you get with that is you will be able to reach your favorite color with less ink. Remember the point I finished with before, the cost basis. You need to be able to print at a cost that makes your business profitable. It is still a high pigment content ink, right? So all these inks have high pigment content. Remember the challenge, can we put a lot of color in there and still print? We can. And I'll show you some more detail about how we can reach a really nice color gamut. And what we're going to show you is we compared it to a reactive ink that is there today, and you will be surprised at how similar the gamut is. The second challenge that I've heard quite a bit on is around hand feel. So Eric, you telling me you're going to have all these color and so forth, and it's going to feel like I have an armor on me when I wear it. And well, of course, over this seminar, this webinar, if you wish, it's going to be difficult for me to show you or tell you, right? To show you, I can tell you, but I can't show you the hand feel. So that you'll have to experience once you get in touch, with our team and do some trials on your printer. But you will be able to get a great hand feel and great colors. And what we've done is we've worked with different pretreatments. We can advise you on that. And again, our team will be able to do that. And we know the pretreatments that work really well with our ink. And what I'm anticipating is as many of you start using P2700, we will find many other pretreatment combinations that will really unleash, if you want, the tremendous results that P2700 is capable of. As you know, it's a pigment ink, so it's really compatible with a wide variety of fabrics. So, I look forward to that. And I put GOTS and Ecotex certified in italics for a very simple reason. All our pigment inks today are GOTS and Ecotex certified. This is our newest ink. We're in the process of obtaining the certification, but we anticipate to get this in the coming weeks. What about jetting? So it's Kyocera compatible, certified, right? So it is being sent and tested by Kyocera, and so we'll be able to talk to you about that if we are working together. And the really neat thing here is we now can achieve reliable jettability with binder and high pigment content. In the past, many offerings that had really high pigment content, especially at the mid viscosity level, did not have binder. And we have an offering like that, PK2600. It's a great ink, great color, but you need a post-treatment. And for some application is great, and many of you might be already using it, and it's a great application. But this one enables you to reach the same level of color, without the post-treatment. So now, the other important thing is you're able to do long runs with low maintenance. You don't want to be maintaining, cleaning on a regular basis to avoid some issues at the printhead level, and at the nozzle plate level. You can do that with this ink. And then kind of the clincher is we have worked and optimized the binder technology. We've looked at multiple different options. And with the option we have, what you'll see on the results on wet and dry caulk is we have nothing below 4. So really great. Of course, it's a pigment ink, so it's got great light fastness versus dye inks. And you will see on the results of the different ISO tests about where we get both on, and wash fastness is also outstanding. So you say, what are these numbers? So I'm sure this is a busy chart, and the point of this chart I put in the right. I say 4+. By the way, I was going to have a contest, but it's still a bit difficult to do this without an audience. Is, who's the first one to tell me how many 4s there are on this chart, right? There are not that many. And the good news for you is they're all grouped in one spot. So there's only 3 4s. Everything else is a 4.5/5. This is really outstanding, from a pigment standpoint, and kind of step changing. If you think about the performance on a fastness and a crock basis. So really outstanding. And we have, of course, matched a specific pre-treatment, a specific process to reach this. So, we've done already a lot of alpha and beta testing around all this. And we need to optimize with you based on your specific substrate. So we're very open to say we reach these on the substrate we described. We explained to you on this slide shortly, quickly about how did we reach these numbers, and your choice of pre-treatment, the speed at which you print, the speed and method of fixation, all these things matter. And our teams would be able to counsel you to go and reach the right balance of speed and performance that you would need to have. Okay. I did promise you that I would show you something about the gamut. So here it is. So this is a 3D picture, right, of the gamut. And you can see the vertical axis is the L axis. And really, to me, by the way, I'm not a big color specialist, so I'm sure if you start asking me questions, I would be lost. The good news, by the way, is behind the scene there, I have several of my colleagues who are here in the background helping answer some of the questions that you have. And once we are in front of you, of course, and you're discussing, we'll be able to go into detail. But what I want to focus you on is those two kind of circles on the right. And these are the projections of the gamut of our pigment ink versus the reactive ink. So you can see the reactive ink on the blue cyan area does have an area of superiority for that ink set. But overall, I think the closeness of what we can achieve with pigment versus reactive here is quite striking. And yes, it's very important that we have all these different gamut extenders to help us reach that. And the other thing is on this L-star 22 for the black, which I think also is outstanding, I want to tell you this is a built black, right? So this is not the pure black. This is a black with I believe some of the science involved in it, and again, our technical specialists would tell you, how do we reach an L-star 22, with our ink set, but we've done it and it's doable. So again, this is your favorite color with less ink. This is really a really great achievement. This gets more technically into what the pattern of these colors are. A lot of it has to do with the pigment that we've chosen. Just to show you that, to help you, we're going to give you all the information you need so that when you get to your machine, you can maximize the benefits of this ink, which means you're going to minimize the use of the ink. I know it sounds a little bit silly that me, an ink manufacturer, I'm telling you, I want you to use less ink, but I know if you use less ink, you're going to print more. Your customers are going to buy more. You're going to have a bigger business. Your customer is going to be very, very happy. And we are also, in the end, benefiting. So it is much better that you use less ink than on a specific picture basis or a specific print. Less ink per print, but more prints. That's the way, I think, for all of us, for the business to be successful. So again, the solid extenders, they expand the outer edge of the gamut in the build color areas. The light colors help reduce your graininess on build color and increase your hue accuracy. We've talked about ink consumption. And let's not forget, DuPont inkjet ink looks the same in January, in February, in July, in September. We are consistent. Consistency is essential to us. We've delivered that for 30 years and we'll continue to deliver that for many years to come. So you can expect that the color you've had the first time you did it is going to continue. All right, so overall, new ink P2700, I just want to let you know it's part of a bigger portfolio. We have low, medium, and high viscosity. P3600 was our latest, newest, if you wish, and is also a very nice ink, great performance for high viscosity printheads. So you're more than welcome to contact us and get some more information. So I'm going to leave now the wall-to-wall world and talk a little bit about the t-shirt world and the DTG world, okay? And I just made a big point about ink usage, right? And so I want to double down on that point of ink usage, but on the DTG side. And I think all of you would agree that one of the challenges when you go on the DTG side is the white ink, right? First, you need to have a good white ink. And two, it is an expensive ink compared to other inks. It is, by the way, and I don't have slides around that, a much more difficult ink to manufacture and design. Why? Because think about it, the pigment of the TiO2 pigment, which is in a white ink, is like a basketball, right? And the other pigments are more like golf balls. So we are trying to put basketballs in suspension, not golf balls. So really the credit to all the scientists in the world who work on white ink dispersion, because that's not an easy task to achieve. So what we wanted to do is say, all right, we're gonna use our white ink and we're gonna take two other inks that are available in the market and we're gonna compare how they perform as far as printing them on a t-shirt, right? So this gives you the conditions that we used for the printing, okay? Gives you the print platform. It's a DX5 Epson printhead. We're using the P5000 series. We're using the DuPont P5003 pretreatment, okay? And these are Gildan Ultra Cotton shirts, right? And you see the shirt area, it's about 14 inch by 9 inch. And you see the heat pressing. So these are the conditions. All these shirts in this test, everything was done on the same equipment, following the same method. What we varied though, is the DPI. We varied how much white ink we put down, and then we measured the L star. But before we did that, I just want to do one more technical point to say one of the key things to be successful to put down a nice white ink layer if you're doing with DTG is cotton has fibers that extend in the vertical direction, you know, outside of the plane. When these disrupt the white ink layer, it really disrupts the white ink layer. And visually, you will see it. It's going to really provide an issue. If your eye, as the size said, will detect a black defect. Okay. Now, in the roll-to-roll world, this also exists and is being dealt with, you know, by fabric manufacturers and pre-treaters who make sure, in some cases, they singe it, right? So this is a uniform issue, but sometimes on what we've experienced in our business life is that we've seen some of our customers not always paying the right level of attention to how to eliminate that visual defect prior to the printing. And when you do that, when you mat it properly, you will see a step change improvement on how well the white ink that you're using will perform, okay? And this is true for any white ink, right? Now, this is not just a DuPont advice. This is overall true for any white ink. So just want to let you know, that's a really key thing before you get into your printing. So I look now at the white ink usage optimization. And there's a lot of information in this slide, but maybe what I can do is, so L star first, what is L star? It measures the level of whiteness, right, of what you're seeing. You can see on the top right, different resolution, 720 by 1440 all the way to 1440 by 1440. We've measured the L star with a DuPont white ink and white ink A and white ink B. And what I'm showing you is, number one, the highest rating you get, of course, for all the inks is 1440 by 1440, but by far the DuPont white ink gives you the better performance. So if what you're targeting is the greatest white so that your colors pop in an incredible way, that's your choice. That you want to go right there. But in some of the other t-shirt applications, you know, good, better, best, it depends what you need to deliver for that specific application. What you can see now is, compared to alternative B, we can put 5.5 milliliters of ink, of DuPont ink, to get the 83.5, where you would need 10.5 with that competitor B, 10.5, so nearly 90% more white ink to have the same L star result. Alternative A is better. And there you would need only about 40%. So if you go from 83.5 to 86.4, right, you're actually slightly better than the 83. It's very similar, clearly. But if you're trying to optimize, again, the best you can do with a competitor A is 89.8, which we can do at the lower level, again, at about 25% less ink. So white ink choice can have a big impact on how much ink you're going to be using. And remember, the higher the L star, the better the colors are going to look. So there's a multiplying effect in there. Okay. Finally, I've talked to you a lot about the science of the ink, the science of the printing. And I hope that in what I've been talking to you this morning, you get a sense that how you do things really is very important. And so the application that you have, what you're trying to achieve, and the adjusting the parameters on the printing, on the pre-treatment, on the post-treatment, anything that you're doing really is important. And so we have a team of application support, and we can troubleshoot, we can optimize, we can work with you. And so our regional teams would love to work with you on your application and make sure that all the great science, like the drop formation, you see that beautiful drop there? And I say beautiful drop, right? Because you can see it being created, and at the bottom right, It's just one beautiful drop. If this drop had what's called a satellite, if it remained like this, your picture would not be sharp. You know, sometimes you look at a print and it's sharper than another one and you wonder what happened. Well, if you have these tiny satellites, it messes up with your eye, right? So your eye doesn't see a crisp picture. So another aspect of printing that's important. So just to let you know, we have a team there to, you know, ready to help you. I'm just also reiterating, we've been making inkjet ink for 30 years. You can see on the right there a picture from our plant. We have big tanks. And here's the nice thing about these big inkjet ink tanks is that helps us with our consistency. Not only our experience, but, you know, we make things in such, you know, we can make things in such large quantities that time and time again, it looks exactly the same, okay? And of course, we have quality systems. We do screening of suppliers. We do in-process testing. We have automated control throughout our process, and we do some finished product testing. So all that to protect the product that you're going to be using so you can be successful with your customers. So in the end, again, you know, the combination of our dispersion and polymer technology, our inkjet know-how, our manufacturing, and the customer collaboration is going to help all of us succeed. So I think you're familiar with our offering. Just want to reiterate, we have a full offering on the roll-to-roll side and direct-to-garment, both on a chemistry and inkjet viscosity standpoint, so low, medium, and high viscosity. And we're really hoping to continue to work with you. So thank you. You've been very patient to listen to me there for about 45 minutes. Appreciate that. I know you've had, you have a lot of questions here, which I can see also on my screen. And so I will go and start answering some of these questions here. And I know some of my colleagues have been answered some of the questions. I can see a very, very simple question here is, interesting presentation. Will the PDF file be available? Yes, we're going to transmit that to the organizers. By the way, you should all in your offices. I'm assuming you're at home listening to this. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we should all give a nice round of applause to Fiber to Fashion for putting this together and helping us with all the supporting activities here. So I see that question is, may I have the email for your India rep? We will get you that, absolutely. We have an outstanding gentleman in India, and he will get in touch with you. We have actually an outstanding team there to support you, and we'll be helping you with that. I'm reading some of the other questions. So there's an interesting question from Adrian there on white pigments. I'm just going to read it. We're talking about sustainability, environmental impact. A lot of talk out of the EU on limiting or banning titanium dioxide. So Adrian, this is one area that we're watching closely, right? So it's important for us. We are a very responsible company. And so if in the end our society decides and realizes that there's a negative impact in one of the components that we have, we diligently work on how to take that out. Understand that, by the way, in titanium dioxide in inkjet ink is infinitely small, right, compared to where it's used everywhere from, you know, paper to paint, right? And so, but these are important questions, and these are questions that we need to face squarely. And, you know, as we have great scientists and great creative scientists, we will look always for solutions to lower the environmental footprint, lower the chemical impact, and make it that our products are the most friendly to the environment and to society at large, okay? I have another interesting question on when to expect pre-treatment for dark polyester. So this is a DTG question. So some of you are, I'm sure, are aware that today there are multiple solutions for print on pigment or pigment polyester blends up to 50%. If you go beyond 50%, then there's a question, right? And there are solutions out there. Some other suppliers in the industry have solutions. None of them are perfect. None of them are perfect, but we are also working on our own solution. So I would say stay tuned. This is not the topic of this webinar, but we're working on some creative ways to address that. Just to explain some of the unique challenge here is polyester fabrics have a dye in the fabric itself. That is a dye that is like us in COVID days. We want to travel so bad, we want to move somewhere else from where we are, right? Because we're all stuck at home. We'd like to travel. I'd love to be in real life in a you know, at a trade show or conference talking to you, answering you live, but I can't. Well, the way I look at it is the dye on the polyester fiber does the same thing. Does not want to stay there. It wants to see the world. And to prevent it from doing that is as difficult as trying to prevent you from wanting to travel. But we're working on that, and we will update you. I hope that we will have an update for you, you know, before too long. So the question is, just maybe I'll clarify this one is, by the way, for the, Mark, you asked for my email address. We'll make sure that if you contact Fiber to Fashion, we'll get you that. And by the way, I am on LinkedIn. So if any of you want to connect with me on LinkedIn, feel free. The next question is it required pre-padding with binder to get the fastness? So the binder itself is we have binder in the inkjet ink, right? So in the formulation of the inkjet ink. The pre-treatment does also have some components there, and I'm not gonna go into it, one, because it's not our product, and two, because I'm not a great expert. But what is in the pre-treatment is very important, and that the type of pretreatment used will impact how well our ink will perform on the fabric. So my advice here is to go to literally to contact our team, and we have several companies that we've worked with, and we can give you some contacts of people who can help you identify the right type of pretreatment to maximize the use of our ink, okay? Trying to see some other questions. I think there's another question on polyester. Any real solution for pigment ink printing on 100% polyester? I believe that I answered that. There are solutions. They all have some kind of caveat, right? Either the process is complicated, either the equipment is expensive, either the the speed is slower. Again, and I don't want to speak negatively on the solutions that are out there, because I think it's important for us as an industry to move forward into the print on polyester overall. Today, most of the solutions exist, by the way, on the DTG side. I would say on the roll-to-roll side also, there's some limited success. I think we're all progressing in that direction. Again, we are working on some unique technology that I can't disclose on the DTG side. And when we're ready to discuss that, I think you'll find that extremely interesting. I do think you need to do something different. So the only hint I will give you is it has to look a little bit different than how it is done today. So Average is asking how the hand feel of a fabric printed with the help of this new ink. I think it's great, but I'm biased, Average. And so I would highly recommend that you contact our colleague, and if you are in India, we'll get you the contact in India, and we'll get you some samples. And but better than samples, you want to do it, on your machine and try it and see what it works with your fabric. So that's really our what we aim to do: sample your ink and see how well it does for you. There's a question on fixation temperature requirement. I don't have that, Andrew, off the top of my head. We will make sure to send you, and again, send you that information about what the fixation temperature requirement. I think back in the, trying to see if I look back in my slides, on what we had done. I think we mentioned, here we go, 160C 3-minute forced air is how we did it, but this, again, depending on if you do a calendaring or in our case, forced air, this will all be different. So best is connect with our team, and you'll have an answer. Again, for those of you who want to connect with us, as you send your question and information to Fiber to Fashion on your email, if you can provide what your geographic location is, then we can do one quicker loop and immediately find the right person to get in touch with you. Okay? So I saw there was 2 questions, by the way, on the fixation, and I believe I answered that. And I see a request to get the presentation. Good. And Dimitri has a longer question on the DTG side. What I would want to do is have you, connect with one of our technical teams so they can discuss the difference between our inks and some of the other systems that are out there. But again, great question, no doubt. This is, the length of time that you use, especially on a platen DTG machine, it gives you, that used to do the curing, that is one of the rate limiting steps from a productivity standpoint. So very important. Okay. I think as I look, I think we've done most of the answers of the questions today. I see another request on time and file for P5000 after pre-treat and after the application, same way. I think Vijay, this is best answered with somebody from our team. So thank you. So everybody here again, thank you so much for spending just about an hour together. This was, I enjoyed it. I did miss greatly not seeing you, right? In a normal fashion today, I would have been at FESPA Madrid, I would have been at Drupa, I would have been at SGIA in the US, I would have been at the Smithers Tech Conference this fall. None of these are happening live, but there's a lot of virtual shows going on. So, and this is why also we're kind of doubling down on webinars, because we can't reach you as well as we would in a normal mode. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending an hour with us, and look forward to seeing you live in your region, hopefully in a not too